Welcome back, everybody, to another episode, Spring into Football. Today we have the original crew, Diego, AJ, alongside with us, a feature in UFL Pulse, who is who's a member of many of our group chats, and we thought it would be a great time to bring along another feature here into the season. As we kind of hit the midway point. It's always a great time to get a new perspective from somebody who has different opinions, just like us. With us varying our opinions every week. Um, UFL Pulse, if you can just introduce yourself and welcome to the show.
All right. Well, I appreciate the offer. Hello, spring football fans. I'm the UFL Pulse, just a simple guy that loves football. Kind of a little bit more about myself. I've always been a football fan, not a spring football fan. I'm actually quite a recent football fan. Started, I don't even know how I got into it, but it started last season. I was just flipping through channels. I was bored. There's nothing really to watch this spring. I'm not a big NBA fan, so that didn't really catch my interest, which is usually playoff time this time of year. But as I was flipping through, I saw it was the Panthers, and I believe it was the Showboats, week one, and I caught the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter where
Or
Jake
you
Bates.
are.
Huh?
Oh wait, no, it's the.
Or,
Yeah, you're right.
am I right? I mean, I could be wrong.
Panthers Battlehawks.
Oh, Battlehawks. You're right. You're right. Yep, it was the Battlehawks. And it was the last couple seconds. Jake Bate comes up, drills. I don't remember how many yards, but it was over 60,
64.
64. Yeah.
Yep.
And I saw that and I was like, yo, okay, there's something onto this. So that's how it all started. And every week I just caught the games that were going through. And this year started showing up, and I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and find a little more about this. Let's see if I can find a community to go ahead and share the love, because really there's far and few in between. But I know the fans that are in spring football, they're diehard fans. We can tell, we're all pretty pumped about it, and I think all of us just love the game. So that's a little bit more about myself, but I'll just hand it back to you, and we'll get this episode started, and go from there.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you so much for introducing yourself. Like Diego and AJ talk about all the time, and myself included, is that a lot of our fans are new fans, and that there's nothing wrong with that, and some of these people might be less educated, but you obviously you're definitely not in that group. I'd say you're more educated than the average new fan, but just because
Slightly
you
more.
slightly more because you have that past football experience, like watching and experiencing and witnessing. So it definitely is different from a lot of newer fans that come into the league. But yeah, thank you so much for introducing yourself. I did ask you what your favorite team was before we got started here, and you hesitated to answer. But then I also realized you are a UFL page, so you kind of have to cover the league in all of its fashion. But
Yep, absolutely. Yep. There is no bias. Every team is loved. I mean, some more than others. Depending
yeah,
on who's winning, who's losing. It's all about who can. It depends on the parlay, right? So we'll see on which team I vote for this week and next week. But I cover all of the UFL, kind of your basics of kind of just what goes throughout the week before the games, and then as well as halftime, post game, halftime as well as post game features of what happened afterwards. I plan to do a little more content, but we're just starting with the basics. For those that just want to go ahead and first time viewer, what is the UFL? Why should I be interested in this? What makes this different from doing the NFL? You know, Go on. And so for me, my dream for this page is to go and bring that just football fan or somebody that wants to have a passion in a new sport and something that is growing. We can tell by the viewership. We can tell every year we're getting bigger, bigger. Obviously, there's talks about an expansion, and kind of just ride the wave to something big.
yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. We're trying to always expand our page, whether we have pages or whether we have fan bases or whether we're just trying to watch the league week by week. This league, obviously the goal is to really become big one day and to really make a name for itself and being that segue to the NFL in some respects, but also happening right after the NFL and to gain a lot of popularity is definitely on our agenda and is in our outlook maybe in 5 to 10 years. So,
For
um,
sure.
but yeah, I mean we can go ahead and get into our overall thoughts of week 5 here. It was a wild weekend, so to speak. Something more that we were hoping we'd see, just in terms of production and I think it was unfortunate. Our best week, production wise, we had to we had to compete with the NFL draft. We had to compete with the NBA in some playoff games. Obviously, MLB always a constant. So there is a lot of inconsistencies, but I think if we can, continue this pace, going into the second half of the season, I think we're looking real good here going into year 3. But yeah, that was a little bit more broad. But week 5 overall thoughts. What do you guys think? Anything that stood out to you?
I think for week 5, I think that this was the best week so far in this second year. There are a lot of great games. Probably I gotta go with the Michigan Panthers and the St. Louis game. That game, great to watch. I like the little lead in from the draft. It really just gave everyone a little taste of the UFL in general, and of course St. Louis always rowdy as ever. But Hakeem Butler is finally back. Threw 2 touchdowns. That Blake Jackson touchdown. I think there's a lot of great things for week 5. I have more to expand, but I know that will be covered in some of the other prompts coming up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it was great that we had a little transition between the NFL draft and one of our games. It could be mentioned that it could be said that some of the views probably could have came from that. People are just having it on in the background, but that's good though. Even if they weren't actively watching, they could always go back to the TV and see what's going on, and maybe some of them actually converted to full spectators throughout that game and hopefully for our doubleheader on Sunday. But no, I think it was a great weekend overall. Obviously it's unfortunate in some respects that we were competing with other sports, but at the same time, this is a great start to now 4 weeks going into the playoffs. If we can keep this consistency up, I think it's going to look real good on the resume going into year 3. So those are my thoughts. I think it was a great weekend overall, for sure. AJ or UFO, if you want to pass it over to one of you guys, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, I agree. It was a great week, especially with eyes on it, maybe from the draft. But I think all the games were pretty good. Even that Houston game was good for me because I was interested to see how they came back this week, especially with a new starter, and they looked good. They looked good. I thought San Antonio would put more up of a fight because of their win from last week and the momentum coming into this week. But just a whole slate of great games. That DC and Arlington game was good. I think when I first cut it on, Arlington was up by like a whole bunch, and I watched that little last bit of stretch by DC,
Hmm.
and that was a great game. So I mean, it was a great weekend, a lot of great games. My favorite so far, and with the games coming next week, I hope it's another great week.
For sure. Yeah, if you weren't gonna say it, I was gonna say the same thing. Arlington game, DC Defenders. That was a fantastic game to watch. I wholeheartedly believe this was the best week of the UFL so far, and I'm excited to see what the next couple of weeks are gonna look for us. I mean, I gotta hand it to the Showboats. They got their first win against the possible 4P champions. I mean, they're 3P. They're not 4P yet. But got the showboats. They finally got the dub. They did it overtime. That's the first game that we had in overtime, and kind of seeing a little more of what it looks like for the UFL. NFL completely different as compared to the UFL in terms of how they deal with dealing in overtime. So that was a lot of fun to see, especially for me being somewhat of a newer viewer. And I hope the other viewers that I, are on my page were able to see like just the difference, the creativity that the UFL brings.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it was great to see a lot of new things this weekend. Whether that was new players performing, like players that we haven't seen play at this level before. I think Braylon Sanders. You had other guys like I'm just trying to think what
Dresser
other names.
win.
Yeah, Dresser Win. I mean, there was
Yep.
a lot of there
Yep.
was a lot of guys defensively and offensively that really stepped up this past weekend, and it just goes to show like how deep these rosters are. We've talked about it previously that this league has got a lot of depth, and yeah, I mean it just goes like our league has only grown from a player's skill perspective in these last 2 years, and I think if we can build on this going into year three, I think the sky's the limit, honestly. So. But yeah, no, I keep sidetracking to kind of like the overall state of the league, for what we'll do here is those are kind of our overall thoughts of week five, and we kind of switched this segment up here, this next segment. So I'm gonna have everybody. So UFL, I know you're a feature on this. So what we would do every week is we would pick a quarterback from the week that from the previous week we just saw, and we just give them what was it, a letter grade. Yeah, a letter grade and a little short analysis. But this week we're gonna kind of switch it up, and we're gonna rate a head coach. So you're gonna pick a head coach, and you're gonna just kind of give us a little halfway point of the season evaluation, and then you're gonna kind of answer the question: does this coach get retained next year? Is the coach fired? Is the coach demoted? DC, OC, positional coach, whatever the case is. Just give us a little insight of a coach that you pick. It can be any team you want. No limits there. So I don't know. I just kind of came up with that because there are a lot of teams that will have to make a decision on that very soon, especially if they're not in the playoffs. That decision will come sooner than teams that do make the playoffs. But just something that I came up with here. Now that we're past the halfway point of the season. So if anybody wants to volunteer to start, we can go ahead. If not, I'll go ahead and share mine. Okay, so here's my pick. Here's my pick. So I got Shannon Harris. Okay, I don't know if I took anybody's. That was but Shannon Harris, DC Defenders interim head coach. I saw a comment today on the highlight video against the Renegades saying that they should definitely take off the interim tag on Shannon Harris's name. And I truly agree with this. I think everybody agrees that Shannon Harris is a great coach. And now that he's proved it, leading the team to 4-1 after 5 weeks, I think it's only right to say that I think he will be retained for next year. Me and Diego were talking about it 2 weeks ago, but now I think the chances are only more likely. So I think Shannon Harris is going to be retained next year, and yes, I think he's a great coach. That DC team is miles ahead of what I thought they would be, especially for switching head coaches a little suddenly there and in the beginning of the season. So those are my takes. I think Shannon Harris is a great coach, and I think he'll be coaching them next year for sure.
What letter grade would he give him right now?
I would say that's okay. That's a great add-on. I would say for so far I'd give him an A minus. I think the team has definitely had some struggles. Like if you saw early on in the season, like they weren't able to get the offense going to where it is now. Like against you guys, it was a little struggling. You guys did well though too. But I would give him an A minus for sure. I think like I think at the end of the season, I'll probably still be in the A range. I don't think it's gonna get worse than this. I think he's gonna keep them on this pace, and I think they'll make a deep run in the postseason. If not a championship appearance, might not win it, but still a great thing to be proud of, especially for interim head coach and a lot of new guys. So, but yeah, A minus. I think that's an adequate grade for him. So, but. Yeah, if any of you guys want to volunteer to kind of pick a head coach here, AJ, I just saw you on mute. What do you got?
Yeah, I got one. I'm gonna go Curtis Johnson of the Houston Roughnecks. I'm gonna give him so far a C minus. Uh, they started out rough, especially week one against St. Louis, and I heard a lot of people saying they wanted him going, but I think he did a great job of turning the team around, and now they're only a game back in the USFL conference. So I mean, they still could win. They still have a good chance of making the conference championship. So I think he did a great job of, it started out rough. He got them even. Looked like they found their QB, at least for this season. So I think he's doing a great job. And if he's trying to keep his job, then he's doing a great job of starting. So they're halfway through the season, and I think if he can make the conference championship, I think he might stay another year. But so far I give him a C minus.
Yeah, I agree. I think yeah, like you said, he's turned the team around. He's made some adjustments. I think he's definitely looked different. He's been more calm in these last couple weeks from what he was in the first opening week. So yeah, I'm totally on the same page with you. I think if he can do well enough, I think it'll shape a different perception to guys in the room around him, and players that play for him. So I think it'll just depend. I don't think his job is safe yet. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think he's got to still got to keep up this consistency that he probably has shown in his last couple of weeks throughout the season. So, but yeah, I agree. I think a C minus is a fair evaluation there. So, but Diego UFL, what do you guys got?
Yeah.
You guys got anything?
Yeah, for mine, this was kind of a tough one for me because I was almost gonna pick Skip Holtz, but I'm like, I think Mike Nolan should get some discussion after what happened earlier. So, if you guys don't know, Bryce Perkins is officially, finally, a full-time starter in Michigan. He finally put his ego down, or I don't know what was going on, but the Danny Elling experiment is over. So. But anyway, you know, Mike Nolan, he has a lot of experience in the NFL as a defensive-minded coach. Like he's not bad, but a lot of his criticism, not only with Elling, but just really is he able to make the adjustments? And a lot of people just criticize his decisions. Oh my gosh, he's the sole reason why Michigan has never beat Birmingham once. Um, but I mean, at all angles, though, he does have some clutch moments in certain games. Um, you know, Now with this decision made, what's going to happen with Michigan? Because they're currently tied with Birmingham in the conference. So these next few weeks, what's going to happen? Could they potentially host a playoff game? It's a lot of things. But as a letter grade, I probably give him a B minus. He's still, no doubt a great coach. Just a few slip ups, but I mean, hey, no one's perfect.
Yeah, I think you said it I mean, I think you said it just right. I think like all these coaches we're talking about, I mean, everybody, messes up and makes wrong decisions, and I can even say, Shannon Harris, he might look like the best coach along with Skip Holtz this season, but both of them have made mistakes along the way. Maybe not as notable as some guys like, CJ Johnson or Mike Nolan, but it's still worth talking about and worth discussing. So, no, I think a B minus is also another fair evaluation. I mean, um, but also, being a vet coach, could potentially, impact your ability to be here next year. I know the league is big on promoting young young talent and young football minds and all that. So I don't know if that's going to have a big impact, but I do know it could be considered. And Michigan, I mean, Colin Bauer, the DC, could always be a head coach candidate. Just the way that he's always covered and he always looks on the sideline, and you could even say the same for the DC of the Roughnecks. I forgot his name, but also another name to watch here as we go into this cycle. But
Yeah.
you, yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're just some things to think about. A lot of these coaches are great. Bruce Grakowski of the
Are
Battlehawks,
you talking about Chris Wilson? I think that's his
Chris
name.
Wilson. Yeah, yeah. But there's a lot of names that just stand out from a coaching perspective that a lot of these guys can could go on and potentially coach other teams and but yeah, UFL. What do you got? You got anything?
Yeah. Well, I gotta. There were a couple teams that were already a couple coaches you guys took. I was gonna go with Mike Nolan. The whole experimentation with Bryce Perkins and Danny Etling was, to me, I didn't like it. Danny Perkins was doing good, and I don't know what was up going through his mind. But again, experimentation, trying something new, trying something different, which that's something I really appreciate about this league is they're not afraid to be creative, and even doing play calls. But that's kind of spouting off. The team that I'm kind of looking for and the coach I'm going to take a look at is Anthony Beck of the Battlehawks. When I first saw week 1, his whole mantra or his whole philosophy was, we're going to get some blood. There's going to be some murder. Like, we are going to go out and we are going to fight. Very, very much, he almost reminds me of, not quite like Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions, but he has this persona and he has this culture with the guys, and he riles them up in a way that they play hard and they play well. Even with Hakeem Butler not being wasn't able to come until week 5. I mean they were 2-2, and I mean Max Duggan. I think he's been doing okay. Hopefully he keeps getting better as the season go on. But I just love Anthony and Coach Beck's just driving personality. His personality is just it's contagious. I can see why 30,000 fans want to show up in St. Louis and see
Yeah.
their Battlehawks win. But now that's his personality. In terms of his of him actually being a coach, he has a lot of great weapons. He has Jacob Sailors as his running back. He finally has Akeem Butler. Even the tight end Jake Sutherland, he's done pretty well. He's a pretty big target. But I don't know if there's something just missing. I don't even know how to pinpoint it. Maybe you guys can fill me in and kind of help me brainstorm what's missing with the Battlehawks. But they're 3-2 right now, especially with Butler being back. I think they're gonna do pretty well, especially with Coach Beck's temperament. I think he's gonna do pretty well. So far, I'll go with a solid B. Just to he's doing good, but there can definitely be some improvement, and I can see the Battlehawks being a huge contender this playoff season.
I think maybe one of the things that you're trying to look at is really just how they try to crack down on game adjustments. Because I think that's definitely one of the things we saw when they played the DC Defenders at home a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Especially when Manny Wilkins was under center and they were struggling a lot, and they just wouldn't make the play calls that were appropriate to try to combat the defenders a bit. So I think
Yeah.
that's definitely one of the reasons.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Now that you point that out, I don't know about you guys. I know that we're kind of steering off the directions, but um,
I think he's trying to evolve from, coaching a veteran quarterback that he was in McCarron. I think he's still trying to evolve and coaching a veteran kind of quarterback system into
mhm,
more of a newer type quarterback and faster weapons and like a more agile O line instead of like a smash mouth type of O line. He's still trying to get that going. That's why you've seen like some miscues. Like now, I think they've started to get it going, but it's
right.
been a lot of rushing for Duggan, which is like was never really anticipated.
Right.
So yeah, I think they still could use some improvements, but I think Anthony Becht is still adjusting
Yeah.
to kind of that younger quarterback um, type of offense. So, but
For sure.
before we get, thank you guys for sharing the coach that you selected here. I think we won't do this every week, but I thought it was just a great opportunity because a lot of these guys halfway through the season definitely deserve like an evaluation. They're probably honestly having meetings with like their front office at this point. I don't know like if it's like very detailed, but it's definitely something important. And I don't know, like for DC, like if you have an interim, like they're probably just focused on the season more so, and then like if you've been here for a little while, they're probably cracking down on you more. Um, but before we get into our next topic, we just got some news from XFO analyst. The Arlington Renegades have traded linebacker Story Jackson to the San Antonio Brahmas in exchange for defensive lineman Akena Enechukwu. So if you guys want to check that out for yourselves, I'll give you a sec. But
Yeah.
basically, the Renegades have traded one of their linebackers to the Brahmas. So going from one of the better teams to one of the worst teams. Not I couldn't I wish I could have worded that a little bit more pleasant, but it's okay. It's okay. But no, but that's the reality. Sometimes it happens. Story Jackson, it seems like with these trades, we hear one guy's name a lot more than the other. I don't know. Like with Marcus Sims, we obviously know who Marcus Sims is. Well, then he got
Mm.
traded. Cam Carter, we just didn't really know. A little more under the radar, right? But it seems like here this is a little bit along the same lines. I don't. But we'll get more details about that. It just seems like it's a straight up player for player deal here. And well, I don't know. Story Jackson, I've heard his name. As for the other guy, I'm not too sure. This could be kind of a depth move for Arlington, and then for San Antonio, I think this could be. I think it's a pretty good move for San Antonio. Honestly, pretty pivotal. They definitely could use some linebackering help. Yeah, Diego, there you go. You just sent it in there. So, but no, no. So I just wanted to bring that up. The way I said it, like it's like kind of build some suspense there for you guys. So, um, but okay. So now we can get into kind of the gist of the week here. So attendance and TV ratings is important because we like to talk about this every week because we like to kind of keep tabs on how the league is growing and what can it do to improve and what did it do last week that showed up this week. So um, so just attendance and TV ratings. So just from an overall glance, didn't see the numbers that I mean, honestly, with the NFL draft in mind, I'll just put that out there. The numbers were kind of more in the spot that we kind of believed they would be, but not to the extent that they were at. So overall, the week did definitely see worse than below average numbers and numbers that we didn't really expect. Um, the NFL draft was reported to be the most watched draft of all time this past weekend. So obviously doesn't help. You had over 200,000 fans show up Thursday night, Green Bay. Um, you know, not only north of 7 million on TV, but also um, a greater than Green Bay population of fans joining the NFL draft. So, but I mean, just what do you guys think of the attendance this past week? I mean, did you kind of expect it with the NFL draft? Did you kind of think it would be where it was 2 weeks ago and a little bit before that, or do you guys think it was something that like you could just forget about and move on. I mean, that's one it kind of has to be when you're conflicting with other TV schedules and things of that nature. So, what do you guys think of this past week attendance, TV ratings?
Um, I think to begin with the ratings, I mean, this was going to be one week that it's one week that you really can't get past. I mean, you already have a system put in for the Friday game, so you can't just move it to like a Saturday slot. um But I mean, I did think that the St. Louis game was gonna crack at least a million. I thought the lead in would help. I mean, the game was good too, but I mean, it was going to be a huge test for ESPN in general because I mean, it's a very hit or miss network. Some days they're good, some days they're bad. Um, but it was disappointing to see how Fox drew with how they only drew 467,000 in ratings, which was because that's an all-time low for the Friday games, which is very disappointing. But at the same time, as I mentioned, they're still trying to grow the Friday games a bit, so it's not going to be easy. The Houston San Antonio game that was below 400K, which not good to see. But I mean, same time, it wasn't the most high scoring one like the other three games. So of course, that's always going to take a factor as well. But leading into the attendance, Birmingham again was a little bit lower than usual, but the first two home games have been impacted by the rain. And, I could talk again and again about this topic, but, yeah, Birmingham, won't always have the numbers, but like rating wise, they do score a lot. So it's not like the state of Alabama is not interested in the Stallions. Um, And Arlington, Choctaw Stadium is a very hard stadium to fill, considering it's a former MLB venue. San Antonio did really well, over 14K, but of course, the team sucked. But even with that, a lot of the fans still stayed. It was great atmosphere, but just not the great nor not the best outing. So I really do hope that next week will improve. It should be a lot more lenient, but just gotta see how it goes.
Yeah, I think you hit all the major points. I think as for the league, I also believe we'll see an improvement here in these next couple of weeks, because yes, we did have conflicting events, but the offense, like the product on the field was not the issue, and it has been, and leading up to this week. So that would deteriorate the ratings, but I don't think that was even in the top three or even top five of reasons why the ratings weren't where they wanted to be. So no, I totally agree. I think we'll definitely see better numbers here in the coming weeks, and it definitely came down to other events and weather and team, like as for the Brahmas not playing that well, but still drawing an admittable crowd. So no, I definitely agree. I think it'll get better for sure. So
I, I think we had the best week of football at the worst timing.
yeah,
Period.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's you couldn't pick any worse of a time. And I mean, what's great was we did fantastic. All games were fantastic. Doesn't matter which team you were from; they were all great games. This was the this was
Yeah.
worse. And I'll admit, unfortunately, I was having the UFL on back burner, waiting for the name of Shadur Sanders to finally pop up, which didn't pop up till 2 days later, which that was a complete, yeah. But it would have been funny if he would have been part of the UFL. I think that would have been awesome
So
if he made it.
we were thinking about discussing that, but we don't want to,
Oh, I jumped the gun. My bad.
no,
We'll
no,
we'll
no.
discuss that later.
Well, no, 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 no. We don't want to annoy any of our fans, so we will not. We won't get into it too
Oh,
much.
come on, come
But
on.
we will talk about other potential players now that
Yes.
undrafted free
Isaiah
agent.
Bond.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a big
Isaiah
name.
Bond is. We can okay if you guys want to do a kind of
I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
okay. That will kind of be towards the end, but we'll get into him like very very briefly because undrafted free agents are interesting
Yep.
for UFL prospects, young players. Teams could possibly see value in them. But before I get into more of that, AJ, what do you think of the attendance and TV ratings from this past weekend?
Uh, I just feel like it's one of those weekends that like y'all said, it's naturally gonna be a dip because you got the NFL draft and I was one of the ones watching, waiting for a certain someone named too. So, um, I'm sure everybody was, and so it's just one of them weeks that, you know, uh, the numbers will go down. But I just hated it because it was the best week to me, and I feel like that's the type of week you want, like maybe last week or week one when you got a lot of eyes on you. And so, just I just hope that, you know, the play continues to go up and people will start. I'm pretty sure that there'll be more people watching this weekend. So I'm hoping, we have another great weekend and it gives, the people something to come at and watch.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no, I think it's great that we had a great weekend in terms of football and in terms of product, but sometimes, you don't control, what other leagues have going on and have on TV. But I think in these next couple of weeks, I think if it can stay on this trajectory, I think, that would be a great segue into playoffs, like to just, blow ratings out of the water, so to speak. I think if we can kind of use these next weeks for real improvement, and the field the play's got to stay the same though. We've seen too many weeks of play where it's been sloppy, so we're glad we got more high-powered offense this past weekend. So for sure though, I mean, but it's not to say though. I mean, I still think the defenses are looking okay. Like if you take Renegades and Defenders game for example, close game all around, high scoring, but you can't really like discount anybody on either defense. I think like players look good all around. It's just now about like making that extra play and like and breaking that extra tackle. It's gonna come down to little things like that. So, but yeah, I mean we can go ahead and move it right along here. So I know we're kind of dragging it a little bit because I mean not this I mean sidetracking is okay, but we can kind of get through these next ones in a pretty kind of like going in a streak. So we have the Samson Nacua incident. So this is something that kind of surfaced the entire media. I'm not gonna say I'm glad it happened because obviously we feel for the fan, but there are rumors that the fan spat on Samson Nacua, which is a problem in itself if that's true. If anybody's unfamiliar with the unaware about the incident, so a fan of the St. Louis Battlehawks, I'm pretty sure at the Dome at America Center, was kind of just talking back and forth with Samson Nacua, and Adonis Alexander was next to him. Um, so I think he spat on him. I'm not gonna. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but
Allegedly.
allegedly, yeah. So allegedly, the fan spat on Samson Nacua, and then Samson Nacua just slapped him across the face, and it didn't look like the fan like didn't respond like really react to it. And then Adonis Alexander even like wasn't even like he just was laughing at it. Didn't want anything to like didn't even pull Samson Nacua back. I think he just kind of did it to himself there. So that's the incident. In event of that, I'll let one of you guys take that. What's the consequence here for Mr. Nakua here?
Well, I'm going to take charge on this one. With Nacua, so Samson Nacua, if for the viewers that don't know, he is the brother of Puka Nacua of the Rams, and he also has another brother who plays defense on the same team, which is the Michigan Panthers. What's his name? I'm tripping here.
Kai Nakua.
Thank you, appreciate it. But Samson Nacua was, I think, on Tuesday,
Yeah.
which today's Tuesday. My goodness, was offered a one-game suspension from the UFL for basically, interfering with the fan and smacking them. He did not miss on that smack either. If anybody has not seen the clip, go watch the clip. It's only a couple seconds.
TMZ has the video. That just shows how huge this is now.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this: all news is good news. And in this situation, Samson Nacua, there's connection with Puka Nacua, or people can make that connection if they are fans of the NFL. This can also lead them to the UFL. There's drama in this league. I mean, even earlier in the season, talking about ratings of head coaches, we had head coaches that were dropping out last week of, before the first week of the game, they were dropping out. And we had memes of James Larson being announced the new head coach for the team. Uh, anyways,
Let's not
sorry.
forget the CBA deal too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the CBA deal. So there's a ton of drama on field and off the field. So with this situation, kind of like what you were saying, Ferris, you are
Yeah.
kind of glad in terms of the league. Unfortunately for the fan, whether he deserved it or not, it's not. It's you can't do that. You just cannot do that. Doesn't matter who you are. And hopefully between Nacua and the fan, they've made up. But unfortunately, he is suspended that one game, so he won't be playing this week for week 5. But um, it's kind of interesting because when I first saw it, I didn't see it that day. I saw it the next day. I almost didn't believe what I saw. I was like, wait, did that? Hold on, let me rewatch that again. Roll the clip back. So it's just some more drama, adding a little fuel to the flame for what it's like in the UFL.
I think a great point though. I think if it wasn't somebody that had ties to the NFL, I don't think it would be covered as much as it was. If it was Marcus Sims, for example, which I actually thought it was like unluckily. I just thought even though Marcus Sims was traded to Houston, I think in week 2, I thought for some reason on accident that it was him. Um, but no, so if it was just somebody of less stat, like without the name, I don't think it's going to be talked about as much. But as you can see, like in every caption that somebody posted, like everyone says Samson Nacua, comma, the brother of Puka Nacua,
Yep.
right? So if it was somebody, that didn't have those ties, I don't think it's covered as much. But again, still having that lead in, definitely could bring some fans. Like again, it's not a great situation. It's not a great look in some respects, but could potentially bring people to watch just because like those altercations are always interesting because like obviously in this case the fan had like the Samson Akua might have had some reason. I'm not gonna expand on whether he did or not on how much he did, but in this case, if the fan spat on him, then there's some validity. But no, so I think overall, I think the incident's a little bit messy, but nonetheless, we'll just end it off saying that Nakua will receive a suspension and hopefully he learned from his mistake and get back on the field on week 7. Yeah, that's
Yes.
correct. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think the incident is what it is at this point, but yeah, thank you guys so much for just kind of analyzing it. So we have now the USFL conference shakeup. So obviously now with Memphis winning a game against the Birmingham Stallions, we have also what else do we have? Was that
Houston beat San Antonio.
wait? Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. Houston beat San Antonio. So now, what does that kind of do in terms of the USFL conference? Obviously, we know San Antonio, or sorry, Houston is one game behind. I think AJ was saying that. So now, what does that kind of do to the USFL conference? And what are we going to kind of need to see here from those teams that need to kind of win these next couple of games in order to enter the Final Four, so to speak, in the postseason? What do you guys think?
I think just looking at it, it's uh, I know that one of my friends in one of my group chats touched up on it, just saying just how wide open this division is, just really just with how like all these teams haven't been perfect at all, even the Stallions. I mean, we've seen so many quarterbacks enter the role of QB1, and a lot of injuries plague us as well. So like, we're not perfect, I mean, it's just one of those things, like what's going to happen. Of course, Bryce Perkins is the full-time starter. Houston is is given so much life now with Jalen McClendon. CJ Johnson is finally shaping up a bit. I could go on and on, but As I touched up on in one of the previous topics, Michigan does have the chance, very much likely, to host a playoff game at Ford Field. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know because the Panthers and the Stallions are tied at 3-2, and then at both is the Roughnecks and Showboats tied too? Because I think they're both 2-3 now.
I believe so.
I think
Showboats are
Memphis is
one
one
and
and four.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. First
So
first win. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so not exactly tied, but but they still have that potential to really just change things up. So I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. I hope we stay up top, of course, but
No.
like
Yeah.
the best thing is that like last season, Arlington was 0-5 at this point, so really all 8 teams are still in it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of football left. I mean, I know we're past halfway of the season, but these players, at this point of the year, they're going to give it their all. And like UFL was saying earlier, like what we saw Anthony Beck look like that's what these coaches are preaching to their players here in these last couple of weeks, is that you got to go out there, give it your all, no matter what our record is, no matter if the coach is staying next season or not, if the quarterback is guaranteed a spot next year, like you got to go out there and do your best, and product. Obviously, hopefully the product will show with it, which we've seen obviously with the Roughnecks kind of being a prime example. Might not have the best roster in terms of talent, but really going out there, you're giving it their all, and showing for. So, but yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's going to be definitely interesting here in these final weeks here. UFL AJ, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean it's close. I mean technically even Memphis could win if everything went right. So I think with Birmingham losing this weekend, it opened it up for the other teams behind them. Houston, like I said, Houston's one game back, and Memphis and Houston play this week. So probably the loser of this game probably won't make it, and it'll turn into the three-team race. So I mean, like I said, anybody could win, and I mean that's what I'd rather have than knowing at week 5 like we did last year, Birmingham was making it. So I'd rather have more meaningful games coming down this last stretch of the season. So I mean, as a football fan, I like it, and hopefully, these last few weeks are great, and it comes down to the end to see who play for that conference championship.
Yeah, I totally agree. UFL, what do you think?
Anything is possible.
Yeah. So no, I think it's gonna be great though. I mean, seeing these teams are all good. I mean, they all have talent. We can talk about Memphis just in detail a little bit here. Not so much about last week, but David Davis coming back from IR, a huge move because they were looking okay without him, and we thought they were, the sky was falling when David Davis was announced to be out for his IR period, but nonetheless they didn't look that bad. And then now signing Wes Hills per the transaction wire at around 1 p.m. today, I believe so. Might have been a little bit earlier than that. Really, some really good moves. I think the team's looking better. Just off those two moves, like those could be pivotal because the run game really wasn't there for Memphis much of the season. But I think now having these next 4 weeks with a pretty decent O line, just so to speak, like they haven't looked bad. I don't know, like in run blocking, like I don't know if Jacob Kabodi was like not seeing the vision as much, but no, I think with those two moves, David Davis coming back kind of gets that passing offense back in rhythm, and then also adding Wes Hills could really be a good addition in the backfield. So, but yeah, I mean no, and then also Deneric Prince, backing up kind of a 1A 1B situation with Wes Hills there. So, but yeah, no, I think it's gonna be great. So, um, but yeah, so. That was kind of a little bit of a skip past the transaction wire, but there are moves. So and then we've talked about the next topic was the offensive resurgence, but we've kind of talked about that all throughout the video. It's kind of been a recurring theme. I mean, we can get into it a little bit, but is this kind of the week that you guys kind of thought everything would kind of happen? Like, it just kind of felt like everything happened so quickly, as opposed to like kind of building it up. Like, we didn't really expect these offenses to kind of perform at the level they did. You know, in a week's time, you know, I think it kind of needed more of a build up. But hey, I'm not complaining. I think you know, any offense is good. Any football, any good football is great. So what do you guys think? Do you guys kind of agree with that? Do you think kind of came at a bad time? I mean, I know we said this was bad timing for some good football, right? So, but yeah, I mean, no, there isn't much to say because we kind of, you know, the offense is being good. It was just such a good thing for us, so that's kind of why we've kind of gone with it. We've kind of talked about it a lot so far, because of how highly we value it. So, but no, we can get into the transaction wire. So obviously, I talked about David Davis coming back, Wes Hills being also signed by the Memphis Showboats. Jacob Kabodi actually, I believe, got released. David Bellamy also released by DC, and now joins Houston. And then I mean that even in itself, that move looks real good now, because the defenders looked real good without Bellamy, and we know how good David Bellamy is as a player. But now adding him to Houston, which has, you know, been a defense that's been on the come up here in the last couple of weeks, but I think could even be better with David Bellamy. So what are you guys' thoughts on these moves? I know we've talked about transaction wire here on this podcast this season in a little bit of detail, but this is one of the weeks that I think a lot of these moves are a lot more pivotal and could really help the team moving forward. So what do you guys think? Anything?
I'll
Yeah.
kickstart this topic. Just seeing these transactions with the Showboats, I'm not gonna lie. As a Stallions fan, it scares me a bit. But just because I saw David Davis, I'm like, okay. And now I see
Okay.
West Hills, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay.
you know, like, but I mean, it's good for the Showboats. So, I mean, you know, they've had some offensive struggles. I mean, Jim Turner, I think, you know, he's not that bad for being an interim, but I know of course it's not perfect, but like he's definitely now getting a lot like comfortable with the role. But no, they've been Bellamy. I know he didn't play with the defenders; he was inactive. But you know, I think if things do work out, he does get playing time with Houston. I think you could most definitely see a change up with Houston's defense.
Yeah, and Houston's defense only allowed nine points in that victory on Sunday. So they have much to look forward to if you're on the defensive side of the ball, whether you're a player or a fan. I know Nick, our feature last week, is definitely looking forward to some more football that kind of just like he saw last week. So no. But yeah, no, I think what do you guys think, AJ and UFO? Any transactions stand out to you? I know we saw a lot, so
I just think Bellamy going to Houston is great, especially for them trying to make the you know, halfway, trying to make it to the end, and they're a game behind. Same thing with Memphis. I think it's good for them trying to stay in the race to add some more pieces. And so I mean, it's great for those guys. And like I said, you know, a little earlier, Houston's defense, I feel like it's getting better. So you just add another piece to it and try to get better, get some fresh guys in, maybe that can help. So
yeah, and I don't think Bellamy didn't play much with DC. So it only adds, you know, like you're gonna get a, you know, like you said, like a more of a fresh player, not somebody who's like beaten up, so to speak, like in these first couple weeks, first 5 weeks. Definitely getting a vet presence. Like, you know, I know they've got some younger guys there, so that's only gonna help them. And David Bellamy's a great player. Like, you know, if you remember him with the Breakers, you know, if you remember him last year from with the Defenders, definitely adds something that they've been needing, and I think it's going to be great for them. UFO, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, David Bellamy, that's going to be a fantastic piece for them. I'm actually more looking at the Showboats.
Okay.
I mean, they had a rough. We got to be honest. They've had a rough start to the year. Especially with signing EJ Perry, who used to be with the Panthers. He just didn't do too well. But with Dresser win last week, pulling off the win against the Stallions in overtime, that was just fantastic. Because really, the only offensive key piece that I can see that is a big name for the Showboats is Jonathan Adams, but I haven't really heard much of his name in the past couple of weeks of football. So maybe adding Wes Hills to that lineup will kind of help him, just give him another target to go ahead. Because I mean, Dresser, you're not going to really see much of the rush. I mean, even the rushing game it could be better. I mean, they have, I think it's Deneric Prince in the backfield for them, but adding West Hill is just another key point. So they could really turn it around for you guys. So I'm excited to see what the Showboats have coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think Houston. We AJ, last week we called Houston and San Antonio game of the week, and it actually
Mhm.
ended up being not game of the week. Unfortunately, not because obviously you know how they did the previous week with Pardee and the Roughnecks looking good against the Stallions, not pulling it off, but close.
Mhm.
But so we kind of thought, oh, those teams playing against each other could have been game of the week. But now I think even a better story is Memphis versus Houston could be game of the week. But that is something we'll discuss here in a little bit. Before we do that, we can go ahead and get into. I mean, we can get into our predictions. I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and share our predictions in the group chat, just so that like we'll do it on here, but just in terms of picks, just because I didn't receive those, I should have asked. That's on me. I'll go ahead and do that in the group chat. But as for everybody's predictions, we can go ahead and voice those off in here. So what we'll do for this UFO is we'll each go and say our predictions. It's great because we still have 8 teams in this league, so it makes it easy. And then we'll just share each game. You can give a little summary, a little analysis with it. Doesn't have to be something too long, but kind of which players are going to stand out. Is anybody going to kind of lead a team over another? And then just give your final score. It could be like it could be a two-score game, one-score game, whatever the case is. Just a final score, analysis, so on and so forth. So um, I'm gonna let one of you guys take it first, though. I was gonna start, but I'm still kind of shuffling through my ideas here.
I can start off.
Okay.
So for the Friday game, of course, we got Arlington at St. Louis. This one was a tough one to choose because both of these teams looked great last week, even with the loss for Arlington. But with this one, I think that Max Duggan, he has one of his best games as the new starter for St. Louis. But I'm predicting the final score to be 22-30 St. Louis. I mean, the Spring King, Luis Perez, he's gonna look great as always, but I think St. Louis, they're gonna find a way to even it out with this one. Um, but for the next game, for Houston Memphis, another hard one to pick because a lot of people were saying before this past week, oh, this is just going to be another tank bowl, just like week 3. But I mean, you could look at it that way, but at the same time, you can watch them and they're not going to look that way. I mean, yeah, we could have a Houston San Antonio situation instead, but I highly doubt that. But back to the prediction, I think with this one, Houston will get the edge out on this one. I think they win against the Memphis Showboats 17-26. And then going into Detroit, the DC Defenders visit the Panthers. Um, I think with this one, with Bryce Perkins now as the starter, that will give them really the flow that they need. Defense will press hard. I got the Panthers coming out on this one, 25-31, another high scoring one. And then this is where things get interesting. Now you got the Brahmas visiting Birmingham. And I think this one will be a little more low scoring just because, this is going to be Case Cookus's second start with Birmingham. So he's still trying to figure it out. San Antonio, I mean, they might look a little better, but I think a final score is going to come out to 12-20. It's going to be a little rusty in the first half, but, second half is when it really gets good.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, after last weekend, I think, we can only kind of think highly of this week too. Like, I mean, it has been inconsistent in the first 5 weeks. Actually, it's been consistent, but in the opposite way of not being that great. So, but I think if we can build on last week, I think it's only going to be in the best interest for the league and the fans and everybody. So, but yeah, no, I'll let AJ or UFL whatever you guys got, and then I can go after.
Yeah, I got my list together. I can go ahead and
Oh,
go.
okay, all right.
So, first game we got Arlington at St. Louis. I'm gonna go with Arlington on the road. I think it'll be a very close game. I'm gonna go Arlington 22-21.
Oh, dang.
Then next we got Memphis at Houston. Um, I think Houston wins. I'm gonna go with them winning 28-21. I think it'll be another close game. I think two teams are somewhat similar, but I just like Houston coming out on this one. Next, we got DC at Michigan. Um, DC is my favorite team so far, um, and I think they'll play great. But I do think Michigan will win. I think it'll be another close game. I got them winning 28-27. And then we got San Antonio at Birmingham. I think Case Cook is playing. They won't score as many points, so I got it a little bit closer, but I still got Birmingham winning 21-12.
All right.
21-12. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I definitely see those games too. Like with how you kind of said, kind of it's gonna depend on a lot of players. But then like for games like Houston and Houston and Memphis, it's gonna be more like of a collective effort. But then like for those closer games, it's gonna be like for those higher scoring teams, like it's gonna come down to the quarterback. But for Houston and Memphis, it's gonna come down to the defense and the offense. Very collective. They've got to work together in order to kind of pull off those wins. But UFL, I'm gonna let you go ahead and go along with yours before I get into mine, if you don't
All
mind.
right. Well, I'll do a speed round real quick. I did pull up the odds. I did pull up the over and unders. And it looks like we got a couple of good overs and unders. Based on also last week's game. First one, Renegades versus Battlehawks in St. Louis. I honestly think that St. Louis is going to beat over the Renegades. I liked how they looked last week. I know they're facing the King of Spring, Luis Perez, but I think they'll take care of them. And I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. Let's do 32 to 27. 32-27. That's my final answer. The Showboats at the Roughnecks. Dresser Wynn looked really well last week, and I think he's going to do it well again. I think they'll beat beat the Roughnecks in enemy territory. I think it's going to be a bit of a lower game. I think it'll probably be, I'm going to say 24-18. And then DC Defenders at Michigan. That one I'm actually most excited about. I'm pretty excited to see these two teams compete. I think DC is going to get it over on the Panthers. And I think that's also going to be a high scoring game. Let's do 35-31. And then finally on Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock, the Brahmas are on the road against the Stallions. And I think it's redemption time, baby, for the Brahmas. They didn't do well last week. They're going to show off against the Stallions here. I think it's going to be a tight one. We'll do 24-21.
In favor of
Brahmas.
Oh, okay,
I'm
okay,
I'm going
okay.
I'm going with I'm going with the Brahmas, baby. I
I
think they're
don't.
gonna do well against the Stallions.
No, no. You know what? We accept all opinions. We accept all angles that you see. I don't mind any underdog predictions because Roth also tends to be that way. So we welcome anything that you see, any opinions that you
His
might.
presence is missed, but your underdog predictions are amazing.
Very much very much fills the void of underdogs because a lot of we've been agreeing with a lot of our predictions as of late. So you know, but no,
Yeah.
I think that was great. So for sure, I definitely see I definitely could see the underdog taking some of these games this weekend. It's probably not going to be reflective in mine, but no, I think you're right to kind of look at it like that. So. For my predictions, so we have Arlington at St. Louis Friday night. You know, great atmosphere, great game. Most likely going to be. I actually have St. Louis coming up with that one too. Over Arlington. I got like a score of like 27-22, kind of what you guys have been saying. It's going to be very close. You know, it's going to come down to the little things and the plays and broken tackles and you know, offensive line play and stuff like that. So yeah, I got St. Louis coming up with that one, 27-22. And then we move on to Saturday, Memphis at Houston. Another great game. You know, a little bit maybe not seen like that, but you know, I think both great teams. It's going to come down to more of the offensive defense, like I was mentioning. And I mean, I got Memphis winning here just because of how they've looked. I mean, Houston's looked good too, but I think they'll get the edge over them this time. You know, obviously they lost you know, earlier on at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, but I think they'll get their get back and they'll win this time. You know, Dresser win will get another win for them, and they'll definitely hopefully we see West Hills in action here first week with the team, as well as David Davis. Obviously, we know he's going to play, but we don't know kind of what that's going to look like. Obviously, hoping for like a Hakeem Butler type situation, comes back first game, looks real well, um, but yeah, no, I can't, you know, not, it's kind of it's very unpredictable. And Houston has a good defense. Obviously, they have like Cornelder and all those guys. They just added Bellamy, so, but no, for DC at Michigan, I got Michigan coming up with that one. I know it could go either way, but I think Michigan's going to win. Bryce Perkins is looking good. We just got obviously word from the league that from our media that he's the quarterback one, so there isn't going to be any more going back and forth with that link. So I think that'll you know only benefit them. So I got Michigan winning that one. Oh, I didn't give a score for Memphis's game. So for Memphis's game, I got Memphis winning. I'll say 20-16. I literally predicted that the same last time. I think it was somewhat close, but I think this time it might be a little bit more aligned with my score prediction. So, but for DC Michigan, the score I got for that, so I got Michigan winning. Um, I'll say I'll say 26-19. Um, I think um, I think DC has had some defensive struggles. Um, Obviously, they do have good players, but it doesn't always look good. The secondary is a little bit weak, but their front seven is very much good with Mincy and Derek Roberson. But and then for the last game, San Antonio at Birmingham. I do have Birmingham winning. I know the underdog could be seen, like you could argue in any of these games, but I do have Birmingham winning. I'm gonna give them. I'll say 24-13. I don't think you know I think the Stallions defense is going to look pretty good, and I don't think the Brahmas offense is going to look like we've seen them possibly in some of these weeks. So no, I give the edge to the Stallions for that game. So, but yeah, no. It's notable that AJ, I believe you went 3-1 last week in predictions, and Diego and I, for the first time in spring football history, went 0-4. So yeah, yeah, well we all chose the same games, obviously to both be 0-4. But it just, I mean, last week was definitely unpredictable. This week is definitely like that too. But no, I mean, it just goes to show like there you can't count any team out for sure. Like I think last week, like we weren't looking and saying we weren't saying like, oh, this team's definitely gonna lose. Like they were close scores that we had in mind. But this week is no different either. Like I'm looking at all these games and like how the combination worked of how the schedule came out. Like it's like a carbon copy like of how close it looks again, you know. So it just goes to show like how good the talent has gotten. And I mean, no, I'm so excited for another week of great football. So, um, but AJ, we're gonna go ahead and just post a video on our page if you don't mind, just so we can announce the awards, but we'll just go ahead and post it on our page.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'll invite you to collab and UFL Pulse. I'll invite you and Diego, of course. But obviously, we'll still get into the awards here. But we can go quick. So UFL, we'll just take an award. You'll go according to the topics list. Um, I'll go quickly here. So Air Player of the Week, Jordan Teamu from DC Defenders. That's who we had for Week 5. 23 of 46. 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 37 rush yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Great week overall. You know, he's won this award. I won this award I think one other time this season. So
I think more than one. He's
twice.
been very consistent in the passing game.
He
Yeah.
might be on
Okay.
his third straight, I think.
Third
Yeah.
straight. Okay. No, no. So no, but yeah, Jordan Teamu, third. I think he's won. Yeah, I think he's won 3 times total this season, which is really crazy to think because we haven't had much good quarterback play. But this award, surprisingly, this week was definitely tougher to narrow down than in past weeks, because we had Bryce Perkins who also had a good game, and it's actually ironic because we're seeing those two quarterbacks duel it out this weekend between Teamu and Perkins. So I think it'll be great. So, but yeah, Jordan Teamu, Air Player of the Week winner, and hopefully everybody agrees with that. So, but Ground Player of the Week, whoever wants to take it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it. Ground player of the week, we got Mr. Toa. I always mess up
Toa
his last
Tawa.
name. Toa, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Of the Michigan Panthers, he did pretty outstanding. He got 15 attempts, carried it for 74 yards, bringing in 2 tutties for the Panthers. Unfortunately, they didn't win, but he still made this game pretty close. And he did he carried the back, so carried the team on his back for that game, and he did pretty well. Especially with I can't remember who he was filling in. There's another running back, but
Uh,
I'm trying to pull him up.
Colburn?
Colburn. Yep.
Colburn. There
Colburn.
you go.
So since Colburn was out, he was called to the plate, and he answered. He did pretty fantastic. Unfortunately, that there wasn't a win out of it, but just the consistency that getting the opportunity to go ahead and make a difference for his team, he did pretty fantastic. So kudos to Toa. I'm excited to see if he'll continue to do this for the next week's game against the Defenders.
Yeah. No, I think there's a chance he could with the defenders having some running game defensive lapses. So, but yeah, no. Hakeem Butler, if any of you guys want to take it. Um,
I'll take it. So for our playmaker of the week, it goes to Hakeem Butler, who is just returning, as we've said in this episode. He racked up 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just looked phenomenal, really similar to how he's looked these last 2 years with the Battlehawks. And just how is he gonna look this next week and the rest of the season? Only one way to find out, but definitely great for Battlehawks to have Hakeem Butler back.
yeah, I mean, just like you said, I think probably was one of the reasons why it kind of propelled them to victory. And yeah, it's great seeing him on the football field again, producing at a high level. So, but yeah, we can move on to the other side of the football here. AJ, if you wanna go ahead and take that. You can
Yeah.
choose either one, whatever you feel.
You said what now?
You can choose either one. You don't have to go in order.
Okay. I'll take special team players of the week.
Oh, okay.
Isaiah Henney. He had a kick six, and if any of the Stallion fans are also Alabama fans, then you saw that before.
Yeah.
To an Alabama team, but he took that back for a touchdown, and it was a big part of helping them get over the hump. Um, I think he scored a touchdown that eventually propelled them to beat Birmingham. So he is our special team player of the week.
Yeah, and obviously there are going to be other notable performances, but as we've mentioned, there is like a criteria. I mean, a kick six is just so uncommon that it would lead you to kind of win this award. So I think that probably will be the only one this season. But seeing him do that, you'll definitely see teams putting a guy back there now for all kicks. So I think. I think Birmingham did that for one of Matt Coughlin's kicks. I think like a subsequent drive, they put a returner back there. So it's just gonna lead to more motivation for these teams. So, but yeah, I'll take one of the defensive awards. So lockdown player of the week, we had a J.N.A. Harris of the Arlington Renegades. He has won this award before. I believe this is his second time and six total tackles, an interception, a fumble forced. Also had an interception on one of the extra point conversions. So no, I think Ajay Harris is looking real good. Potentially you can see him winning Defensive Player of the Year, but it is still a little bit early to kind of call that. But just the way he's playing, I mean, he just helps Arlington so much. Just having a vet presence for a lot of those guys. But yeah, no, Ajay Harris is our lockdown player of the week. So, and then our last award here, one of you guys.
I'll take this one. For our defensive player of the week, this goes to Derek Robertson, who has, set a solid season for the DC Defenders. He's always bringing the pressure, getting sacks. For this week, he got one total tackle, two assists, and 1.5 on sacks. I think he's looked great. He's brings a lot of talent to the field. Is that going to play a factor against the Panthers next week? It's going to be interesting, but no, he's a great player, great athlete. He's looked phenomenal. Definitely very deserving of this award.
Yeah, and then I think DC has two players in the top five for sacks, one and two, or no, I think both tied. So Andre Mintz, I think they have 3.5. I think that's what it is. It's either 3.5 or 4.5, but they both have the same number. Andre Mintz and Derek Roberson. Andre Mintz was a former winner of ours. And actually, the UFL Weekly Awards will come out in about maybe less than 24 hours following ours. So we'll always see if we'll have a match with one of theirs. We've had one in the past, but obviously it's a little bit harder now, like with the league, like having so many good players and just so many great stat lines. So, but hopefully we can get another match this week. I think we have a chance of doing that. So, thank you guys so much for sharing those awards. AJ will post your video online. We'll go ahead and also share the leaderboard with them as well. Um, but no, just some final thoughts here, guys, on the week. What do you guys kind of have in mind for week 6? What do you guys want to see maybe attendance wise? It can be, or it doesn't have to. It can be something about coaching. It could be something about the on-field product, fans, whatever you guys think. What are some thoughts you guys might have before we wrap it up?
I think, for the Birmingham Stallions' first game played in the daytime. I just hope that that gives a little bit of a boost to their attendance. Maybe they break 10,000. Just try to bring more of an atmosphere. I know a lot of people are a bit disappointed in their turnouts a bit. But also, can Michigan keep that same consistency at home and Ford Field because they've had solid numbers as well. But aside from attendance, just looking forward to another great week of football.
Yep. I mean, I totally agree. I think a boost in attendance could definitely be a use, a benefit to the league. Especially still having some weeks to go on here in the season. You don't always want to you don't always want to just like cram everything in like weeks 9 and 10. Like you want to still have great numbers every week. So no, I definitely agree. I think the play hopefully fingers crossed stays on the same level that it was last week. And yeah, if that happens, I think things could look real good for week 6. So, but AJ, UFL, you guys have any final thoughts?
I'm just excited to see how Birmingham looked this weekend. Saw them struggle last weekend, but they're playing San Antonio, so I think if I think Case Cook is probably starting again. So interesting to see how he does for his second week. He's had another week to prepare, and see if Skip Holtz can make maybe some packages or just call a couple more plays that kind of eases him into that system a little bit.
Yeah, no. UFL, I'll let you. We'll let you share yours, and then I wanted to kind of end it off with a little something funny about last week, if you don't
All
mind.
right. Yeah, for sure. Yep. So I'm getting pretty excited about this week. Like it was mentioned earlier, we are halfway through the regular season of the UFL. Oops, excuse me. Sorry, I got an alarm going off. So, anyways, I'm just excited. I think attendance is going to go back up. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So before we wrap it up, there was some controversy about Memphis and Birmingham's game last week. So me and Nate Appleman 20, as the user would be, in a group chat. We kind of went back and forth about the holding call at the end of the game. I'll let you guys share your opinion in a sec, but the call was Skip challenged for holding, but he wanted holding on a different player than what the holding call was actually on, than who the holding call was actually on. So do you guys think? I mean, do you guys think like I don't know, Diego? I know you were like heavily involved in that. So like, do you think he was probably just telling me like, oh, if it's holding, it's holding? Do you think that's how it should be though? Like, if it's holding, then the league should see it like that, or does it have to be the player?
I mean, just looking into it, I'm pretty sure for last Friday it was Dan Blandino officiating that one.
Yeah.
Um, I watched the replay a couple times, even in my own time after the game, and I could see it. I could see it. I think it's something that could have been taken into consideration. I mean, I get you and wanting to stick to the rules of the league. I mean, I get it. It's definitely that just very controversial. But I mean, I'm gonna make a small comment. I'm not a fan of Blandino's officiating. I think Pereira hits the nail a lot better, but I, you know, I don't know. I'm not. I'm gonna try not to be biased. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of open discussion with one of my friends in my Stones group chat as well, who was really upset about it. But you know, all in all, officiating has to be better.
Well, I mean, to kind of add on to that, it would have been called in the NFL, like regardless of whether they saw it or not, because obviously if it happened, it happened, right? So maybe they'll kind of alter that. I don't know how, like to what extent they can for rules going into next year, but no, yeah, I mean those are game changing plays, and I definitely agree with you. Like obviously sometimes sticking to the rules is like what you have to do, but with the rules being a little bit less like with a little bit more unconventional, we have to kind of like we kind of we can have our opinions. We're kind of used to the NFL system. Obviously here we don't have the same rules, so it takes a little bit getting used to. It takes a little bit of getting acquainted to it. So yeah, no, I totally see both ways of it. So, but no, AJ, UFL, you guys had anything on that before we head out here?
I think you know I think no matter how you look at it, it's what the ref call, and you just hope that they kind of adjust the rule so
Yeah,
that maybe it could be flake because you don't want to do something that technically isn't the rule. So
yeah.
I think it's just something to think about this off season when it comes to rule changes.
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen it before though. So when like they've called when it's been on a different player, but no, but I think it could definitely happen. Like it should definitely be looked at to a point where they should make a change. So, um, but yeah, the one topic we couldn't get into was the undrafted free agents. Obviously, not as important as some of the other stuff we covered, but we can probably get into it. We can probably dedicate a segment to it in the next episode for sure. But no, I want to thank everybody for taking the time. I know we went a little bit longer than we expected, but thank you guys so much. And yeah, we'll be seeing you guys here soon. So enjoy another weekend of football, and as always, keep in touch. Thank you guys. Thank you UFL. Thank you AJ. Thank you Diego.
Have a good night.
Oh
You
yeah,
you
see you.
too. Yup. See ya.
Yeah. Appreciate you featuring me. Appreciate it.
Yup. Anytime.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yup.